many hearts have you broken with those great big beautiful eyes? Those great big beautiful eyes that tell such beautiful lies.
How many times have you kissed somebody like you kissed me then? I don't.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all ships at sea. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you an important message from the Prepared Mind Network.
I know we can do this together because I know this. There's nothing beyond our capacity.
I wonder, are my little screensavers, are they subliminal? Was that fast enough? Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is time for, well, the monologue and the inner circle, which is you. Folks, it is time. It is go time. It is show time. It is SHTF on the rise. Does that mean that we did it? Nope, nope, nope. That is, by the way, the golden microphone. No, it's the black microphone. Silver sphincter microphone? I don't know. So speaking of that, I need to keep that handy. That could come in handy. Welcome back to the show. Get your comments down below. It is the Prepared Mind channel. And out there, it is SHTF. Now, am I Mr. Fearmonger? Ooh. Do I do fear porn? Do I put up clickbait shit? Or do we talk about facts? And I think that's an important question for you and me. We talk about facts, and then you get to decide what to do with them. Of course, I'll share my opinion because that makes me happy. I get to express myself in such a way that I get shit off of my chest, and there is a lot on my chest. For example, the country of Switzerland, right? Switzerland. Oh, those funny people in the Alps who have cheese that has air bubbles in it. The government of Switzerland has decided to mail iodine tablets, right? Potassium iodide to 5 million of their people, just in case there is a nuclear war. And it says, take at the request of the authorities. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Are you prepared? How serious is this that a government in Europe is passing out nuclear war medicine? Now, of course, all potassium iodide does is flood your thyroid, fill it to capacity for a period of time as there's radioactive cesium and other elements from a nuclear bomb. That way you don't get thyroid cancer and die. That's all it does. It doesn't make you bulletproof. It doesn't allow you to spin webs and fly around like Spider-Man. It's not that kind of radioactivity. It doesn't turn you into the big green Hulk. It doesn't make you bulletproof like Superman. All it does is keep you from getting thyroid cancer, which is the main part of the body that's affected by nuclear fallout. Now, Switzerland has done this. Is it because the government of Switzerland wants clickbait? Is it because the government of Switzerland knows that we are actually at risk? I think that's more like it. Now, again, I'm going to stand by my case that the area most likely to become very, very hot, at least for a short while, is Israel, followed by Gaza, followed by Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, and parts of Turkey, and of course, Tehran, Iran. One second. Now, there we go. Got to jack the old seat up. It's funny, people who are experts call it Iran. And I keep saying, well, if it's Iran, why does it start with the letter I? Shouldn't we change that to the letter E? That would make some more sense if we're going to call it Iran. Anyways, are you prepared for this, folks? Now, there's something I want you to consider. I want you to be very aware of. And this is 100% satirical conspiracy theory. Where's my tinfoil hat? What if the United States government says, hey, here's some nuclear war pills we want you to take, and they mail them out to us here in the United States? Are you going to take them when they tell you to? Or are you going to be suspicious that the United States government and big pharmacy have put chemicals in there? Certain types of Jim Jones juice chemicals. Can you trust them at this point? Can you trust the United States government not to do something really crooked, shitty, evil, bad, wrong? That's what I said. It's exactly what I said to myself. I ain't taking anything they give me. But the only thing I would take would be $1 million if they sent it to me, but then I would expect them to demand all of it back plus interest after a year because, you know, Biden. All right, get your comments, compliments, anything down below. It is your chance to talk about what is happening, folks, in this world. This world is just a complete and utter disaster, and it has not always been like this. Over the weekend, we did a show. We did the zoo. Between Sunday night and Monday morning, my mailbox was full of shit going wrong. I cleaned it out. Between this morning, 0 Dark 30, and now, my mailbox is full of crazy-ass shit. Oleg Seryov was shot twice. Assassination attempt. He's down in Crimea. Now, he is a former Ukrainian lawmaker, but he is also a pro-Russian former lawmaker. And he was going to take over in Kiev. It used to be K-I-E-V, now it's K-Y-I-V, because, you know, like Iran, we now need to say Kiev instead of Kiev. These fucking people. Anyways, let us continue. This guy that took 2 bullets, right, was shot Friday night, and both family and government officials have reported this. Here's what Reuters reported. Russia's top investigative body said it had opened a criminal inquiry into the attempt on Oleg's life, which follows the assassinations of several other prominent pro-Moscow figures since the start of the war. This is interesting. A future potential replacement for Zelensky gets an assassination attempt. Wow. They can't even end this war and get rid of Zelensky. They're afraid, folks. Zelensky's afraid. The CIA's afraid. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk more about that. Let's talk about that right now. I don't want to let this one slide through my fingers. A hacking group, folks, a bunch of hackers, computer hackers, in their SHTF war effort, in their World War III war effort, this group of hackers hacked into the United States government systems. They grabbed and obtained access to 600,000 emails from the DOD, the Department of Defense, and the Department of Justice, the DOJ. Now get this. The way the story's told, though, is Russian-speaking hackers are the ones who did it. Well, of course it was Russian-speaking hackers. Could it have been anyone else? I'm sure it could have been Chinese-speaking hackers, but Biden couldn't have any of that. But if I were to take a wild guess, if I were going to take a wild, extreme guess at actually who hacked in to the United States federal government and gained access to the Department of Defense and Department of Justice, I would say it sounds like the Central Intelligence Agency to me. Let's ask ourselves the question and use Latin so we sound smart. Qui bono, right? Who benefits from breaking in and gaining email access to emails from the DOD and the Department of Justice? Do you think the Russians don't know how the United States military plans to operate and execute a war effort? They've been putting up with it since they invaded Ukraine, or rather liberated eastern Ukraine. The Russians are well aware of the military tactics and strategies, equipment and capacity and capability. Have they not been testing it as they fight it every single day? So again, let me ask you the question. Who benefits? Do you think the CIA, who took over Ukraine, in Kiev, back in 2014, and put in Zelensky, do you think they're interested to know what the Department of Defense is saying about the war effort and what the Department of Justice is doing around the world with Biden, Hunter, Nancy, Hillary, Mitt Romney, Kevin McCarthy, and I almost called him Mitch McGollum from the Lord of the Rings. Mitch the Glitch McConnell. I think they're more interested in what they are doing and saying, and what the military. I think the CIA wants to know what the government is planning to do, so they can be ahead of the curve and they can direct operations through their stealth, underhanded, chicken shit CIA techniques. I'm sure the Russians already have a good idea of what's going on. The Russians don't need a special hacking group to figure out the Joe Biden plan or the Obama plan. It has been my opinion that the Russians have been playing the United States Democrat government like a fiddle. What they did manage to do, though, the Russians, is lose control of Ukraine back in 2014. They did manage to allow the CIA to take control. That's where the Russians failed, and they've been suffering ever since. Anyways, great topic. Thanks, John. Way to go. Way to ask that question. Hey, you have a question you want to ask, get your question into the comments, and Ooman will snatch it, put a big juicy star around it, and set it off to the side, because after the first 30 minutes, it's your turn. I want to thank everyone out there who is sponsoring this show, sending in super chats to make sure our bills are paid, that we keep right here in the air in the Prepared Mind studios. Right, we have people like Uman volunteers his time and comes up with the rsyndicate.com. We have Mr. T, who does all of these great promos, intros, and things like this. Mondays are murder. Especially if you're a terrorist. They love to murder on Mondays. And of course, we have Jolene in the background. We've got lots of people providing news, information, clips, links, etc. I want to thank all of you for that. Now, back to the satirical news. Russia is now ready. They're prepared to mobilize for the 2024 war season. They're willing to mobilize up to 500,000 new troops. Now, both the Russians and the Ukrainians claim that they've killed 90,000 enemy troops since June 4th. Wow. Both make that claim. Both are guilty of propaganda. I have no doubts. What I want to ask you the question, though, is who sounds like they're committed to winning? Ukraine is out there doing what? They're trying to recruit cripples, senior citizens, and women and send them to the front line. Well, the United States Army isn't much better. They're now trying to recruit senior citizens. I guess they're what? They're going to greet people at the commissary, the PX. What are they going to do, right? Unbelievable. It can't be. Just the whole fucking thing is ridiculous. American children, because that's what I call college graduates now. American children are unwilling to serve their country because they hate the United States government, and they hate the United States of America's flag, and they hate our Constitution. But I thought they loved Biden and voted for him. 91 million votes strong. Shouldn't people be lining up just for the chance to die for Joe Biden? Well, folks, the U.S. Army is just toast. Toast. Marine Corps is pretty close to their recruiting goals, but that's the Marine Corps. In fact, I saw a guy at the store who was wearing a kind of a thank you to the Navy SEALs shirt. And I told him, hello, and had a little brief conversation. And he says, thank you to you guys. You saved my life. And people out there, folks, still appreciate what real patriotic military folks are doing. I do too. There are a lot of good people in the service. And I often make fun of these fruitcakes in the Pentagon and out there because all they want to do is chop their nuts off and get hormones and have you pay for it. There's plenty of that in the military too, but there are patriotic Americans still trying to serve and protect this country, even though they're being driven out of the military by Biden and Secretary of Defense Lloyd the Loser Austin, etc., and General Millie Vanilli, who's now retired. Sack of shit Vanilli. I wish I could meet these motherfuckers on the street and say hi. Anyways, Russia says they're willing to mobilize up to 500,000 new troops in 2024. Ukraine can't find anyone with 2 arms and 2 legs and a pair of testicles to fight for them. Who do you think is committed to winning? NATO? No-to. Not going to happen, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to have the people. The war, in my opinion, is over. Right? And the last city to really see real action here is this Adivov place, whatever the hell it's called. I'm getting tired of trying to memorize the names of these fucking Eastern European and Russian cities. All I need to know is where Moscow is. I tell you what, folks, our enemies are not in Russia. You want to know where our enemies are? Of course, Lindsey, the loser, light in the loafers, Graham, he wants you and I to believe Russia is the threat. Hardly. Let me tell you about the jihadi imam named Siraj Wahaj. Well, he and 3 of his good buddies right here in the United States of America has been found guilty of terrorism. That's right, folks. An Islamic jihadi imam. Imam is like a priest or a cleric, right? They're a high power religious person who asks their people to lay aside all belief systems and surrender your will to them. Well, what did this asshole do and 3 others that have been convicted on terrorism charges? They were training children to commit acts of terror in United States cities. Grown religious men training children to kill themselves in the name of Islam, in jihad, holy war. I mean, what were they doing? Saying, here's this great vest. Yeah, you wear this nice vest, and don't worry about that. That's not Play-Doh in those packages. You leave the C4 alone. That's not Play-Doh. But yeah, learn to wear this vest, right? Learn to walk normal in this vest. What I want to ask you is, folks, these guys are strapping bombs to kids. They're training them to become disposable weapons of religion. Do you feel safe in America still? I want you to thank the Democrats and Rhino Republicans for allowing all of these scumbags in, especially Joe Biden, and especially Barack Hussein, Barry Soetoro, Obama. If there's anyone who never, ever sounded like they were American and should have never been allowed to become president, it would be Barack Hussein Obama. Never mind the Barry Soetoro fake name he used at one point. Barack Hussein Obama. Not a good guy. In my opinion, not even an American. Fucking Manchurian candidate is what he is. Are you prepared? Do you feel safe? Are you prepared? Do you feel safe? I certainly don't, folks. Now, I want to hit this one real hard across the fucking head. Trump took some huge shots at Bill Barr, former Attorney General under Trump. Bill Barr has been attacking Trump and trying to make sure everyone doesn't like Trump. He is directed insults at Trump. I don't think Donald Trump has a very good grasp of the articulate English language. So Trump responded. He says, I call Bill Barr dumb, weak, slow-moving, lethargic, gutless, and lazy. A rhino who couldn't do the job. He just didn't want to be impeached, which the radical left lunatics were preparing to do. I was tough on him in the White House for good reason. So now this moron says to me to get even, quote, his verbal skills are limited. Well, that's one I haven't heard before, says Trump. Tell that to the biggest political crowds in the history of politics by far. Bill Barr is a loser. Folks, with Trump, love him, hate him, or be indifferent. You have to admit Trump doesn't take shit off of these people, and he goes after them and he calls them the dirty names, not as dirty as I would like them to be, but he gets the names across. He's not backing down. He's not giving in. Now, I want to talk to you about something very interesting over this. Stay with me here. I just said Trump called Bill Barr all those names. Nicer than I would call it if I had a chance to call Bill Barr on a large stage, a bunch of names. But, I mean, sloth-like, right? Never met a hamburger you didn't like. That motherfucker, right? And then I started thinking about this claim that Trump was trying to start an insurrection. I want to ask you to quietly think about this. Do not put any answers in the comments. This is a rhetorical, non-scientific, ridiculous, satirical poll. And I'm not asking you to answer, but I want you to think about people around you and what they would do. If President Trump thought this country was toast, that there was no chance of winning the election, that we had succumbed to absolute total tyranny, and he knew that he had to stand up and tell America, we're in big trouble. We're beyond big trouble. We now need to march on Washington, D.C. and overthrow the government by force and reinstitute the Constitution and the Bill of Rights under a Declaration of Independence, the same one we wrote back in 1776. And I need you, America, to join me and throw these pieces of shit out. Bring your guns, show up in Washington, D.C. That's what we're doing. Again, that is not a real order from Trump. That is not a recommendation for violence or a, what do you call it? It's not an endorsement by me. I'm saying, what if he said that? What if Trump came out and said we need to take the country back by force? I'm not asking you to answer this, but what do you think your neighbors would say? How many people in America do you think would listen to Trump and say, it's about time, we've been waiting for this to happen, we are done with this bullshit government in DC, it is time to get rid of it, and I'm going to be part of the crowd that goes and gets it done? Ask yourself this question, and I don't want to hear, yeah, I would do it. Do not put that shit in the comments. If it gets put there, I will have it erased. How many people do you think would show up in Washington, D.C. at Trump's request? 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 Americans with rifles and handguns to clear out Congress, to clear out the White House, to clear out the entire place? How many people do you think? Put a number, but don't put any incendiary comments, because this is an unscientific, satirical poll and question. And the exercise is for us to think, how quickly could we, America, be thrown into a partisan and civil war if a charismatic leader decided to do that? Because I'm going to take this question one more place. I'm curious, man, what's the smallest number that was put up, and what's the largest number that was put up? No numbers are put up. Everyone is saying, that's right, I ain't saying shit. Good. Now, I'm going to ask you another question. If Joe Biden told Antifa and BLM and all of the pro-Palestinian jihadis, we have an insurrection issue in this country with Trump and MAGA supporters, we want you to get your guns and go out and start shooting them. How many radical leftists do you think would take action against others based on the president giving them permission? Just think about it. You do or do not. You don't have to put anything down. I just want you to think that's how close we are. We have some idiot jihadis that say we need to protest against America. And they show up at colleges, they show up at government buildings, they shut down our bridges in New York City. They fuck with people, right? They threaten Jews, children, old women. If the Jews or the Israelis want to have a pro-Israel rally, they get interrupted by these people. How much encouragement and permission do you think they will need before they go crazy? And I think that if anyone had the charisma and power to command the patriots in America to go try and fight Washington, I think it would be Trump. And I sure hope he doesn't try anything like that. Think about how many people would show up for that. And then think about how many wacko radical terrorists, left-wingers, would be more than happy to commit acts of evil against everyone they could if they were given permission and encouragement. This is the world we're in, folks. I don't think Trump's going to say anything like that, but I do expect more Democrat politicians to encourage these leftists. They've already done it. They already have. They already have. Now today, Jen Psaki, remember her? Circle back Jen Psaki. She is an anti-Christian pile of crap. She said that she told the Democrats that MAGA, Mike Johnson, that's right, Make America Great Again, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, is dangerous because he is a Bible-believing Christian. Quote, Bible-believing Christian. Says the Satanic Democrat Party mouthpiece. Says the party that says abortion is a sacrament. Unbelievable, folks. They're turning it into a religious war. Now they're pushing it on us, folks. You've got the jihadis going after the Israelis, and you have the Democrats now positioning themselves to go after Christians. They know that the Republicans that are out there that are good, decent, moral Americans are also Christians. But they're afraid of Mike Johnson. And they want to prime their people, right, to not like us. So again, that's why I wanted to bring up, if Trump said go to Washington and overthrow it, would people follow it? People want a leader. But if a Democrat out there was encouraging people to violate the rights of others and murder them, do you think those people would do it? If the jihadis were guaranteed they could get away with it, I bet they'd do it in a second. And what about the Antifa and BLM types being told they get to go after Christians? Now, this is where we're at, folks. Asking these types of questions. These types of questions. I tell you. I wanted to read this to you. This is important. We're coming up on the half hour. And you know Mondays, I tend to go long because we come out of the bag with a bang. Judge Chutkan, Obama's appointment to the bench, has reinstated a gag order on President Trump. I think that you deserve to hear what this dumb bitch had to say. And I want you to think about it. President Trump is a president. He's a president of these United States, right? He's a political candidate running for president. And they're trying to silence him so that he can't campaign and he can't talk about the government that is trying to keep him from campaigning and screw him over and try and accuse him of every foul crime that they can, and none of them are sticking. So Judge Chutkan, pile of shit, said this about Trump and gives him a gag order. His presidential candidacy does not give him carte blanche to vilify public servants who are simply doing their jobs. He does not have the right to say and do exactly what he pleases. Unfortunately, this bitch is incorrect. The fact that she wears a black dress and swings a little wooden stick at another little wooden thing, bang, bang, doesn't make her a god. In fact, she is one of the most loathsome people, I think, in the American, shall we say, public view right now. His presidential candidacy does give him carte blanche to criticize public servants. She uses the word vilify. Well, you can listen to Trump, and if you think he's vilifying, then you think he's vilifying. If you think he's criticizing, you think he's criticizing. Trump is free to say whatever the fuck he wants. How you take it, whether you're insulted or whether you're encouraged by it, is up to you. That is your problem to deal with if you are insulted by it. And it's your material to be concerned about if you are encouraged by it. Trump should be, by right and virtue of freedom, free to say whatever the fuck he wants, especially about public servants, whether or not they're simply doing their jobs. And the jackasses in the Department of Justice are not doing their jobs. They are completely out of their fucking minds, from that one little bastard of a judge to the prosecutor Smith. They're scum. And then let's go over the second part, and then we'll get to your questions in the inner circle. When she says he does not have the right to say and do exactly what he pleases. Wrong again, bitch. He is a presidential candidate and he is an American, not to mention the president of the United States. He can say exactly what he wants to say, short of shouting fire in a crowded room when there is no fire. He can say whatever the fuck he wants and do what he pleases, provided he is not injuring others, like Antifa and BLM and the pro-Palestinian supporters who seem to do whatever they please, which does hurt others. Judge Chutkan, what a fucking piece of work she is. I bet her husband just cringes every time she comes home. Good God. You don't have a right to say anything you want to say in my house, mister. Can you imagine that shit? Can you imagine being married to these fucking people or even around them, being related? Good golly. I tell you. Wow. Let's do this. Let's have some fun. It is now your turn at the inner circle. By the way, Judge Chutkan gets the coveted silver sphincter off of the horse's ass award for you, Judge Chutkan. You're a flaming idiot. The fact that you go to law school and manage to pass the classes and manage to pass the bar exam and get a political appointment to the bench so you can thrust your political agenda in our faces does not make you correct or accurate, right, or empowered, right? You have authority. You've been placed there by some less than credible people. Zero respect. All right, Mr. Uman, what do we got, sir? Who wants to step up? It is Chin Music. Thank you, and you know what I'm talking about. He says, John, we all understand you aren't making a call to arms. No, No, I'm not. He says it's a question meant to provoke thought. Yes, it is. And I'm glad you see it that way. And I think it would garner a lot of support privately, but the prisoner's dilemma would rule the day. Correct. Folks, there's going to come a time. The time is coming. We're not there yet. We're not there yet, but I am prepared for it. I think a lot of people are prepared for it. What is coming? What is coming? Right? The world is waiting for charismatic leaders. It's just how it works. For the Germans, sadly, it was Adolf Hitler. For the Soviets, the ones that rose to the top were Vladimir Lenin and then Joseph Stalin. Right? Very scary, murderous people. Chairman Mao, right? Very charismatic. Those are some scary people. But are there any examples of patriotic men who got the support of the people behind them and didn't murder off their own people in the population? Yeah, we do. We have people like that. We really do. Ronald Reagan was a great patriotic American. He got people to believe in America again. You can go back to Teddy Roosevelt, another great president, and like Reagan and others, not perfect, but was able to garner a lot of support behind what he was saying and doing. You know, there are great Americans and great leaders, but we've got to be very careful in who we trust and who we believe. But at some point, we may not have any choice. You may not have any choice when faced with two evils or two uncomfortable positions. Will you let your city, your state be taken over by these people? Or will you have to do the hard work and repel them? I don't know what's going to happen, folks. We've got a lot of trouble in front of us. I want to provoke thought because I want people to decide, what are they willing to do ahead of time? Who would they be willing to listen to? And are they fully aware of what the other side would like to do and how quickly they could do it? We'll find out. Very good. Thank you, Chin Music. Mr. Uman, where do we roll next? Chin Music says, I can't look at Mitch the Glitch McConnell without hearing that old America Online AOL dial-up tone. Yeah, it was really funny when they used to do that. Your phone would go beep, 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 right? And then it would log on. And if you wanted to download a picture, it would take about 15 to 30 seconds to get a good quality picture, right? And if it was over a megabyte, look out. You may as well get a new cup of coffee. And that was the internet just 25 years ago. Just 25 years ago. Yeah, but that seems like Mitch the Glitch, all right. Very slow, but here we are. Where do we go? Who is up next? Uman has an answer to the question, or a question of if Trump said show up, would people show up? If the Democrats said go get those rascally Republicans and those patriots and those right-wingers and those anti-abortionists, the radical left would show up in much greater numbers and sooner. So the question I ask in response to that, why? Why would they do that? Why would the pro-Palestinians start killing people? Why would Antifa, BLM start killing people if they could get away with it? It's because they do not have a strong moral foundation. They are not very intelligent. It is, I believe, a psychological and scientific fact that the lower the IQ of a people, the more prone they are to committing acts of violence. The reason is they're not as intelligent as other people, and therefore they come to wrong conclusions more often and consequently resort to violence to get what they want rather than to intelligently work through problems. So let's take a look at the politicians in charge. What do they want to do? They want to go to war, don't they? They want war with Russia. They want war with Israel. They want war with Iran. They want war with China, right? They do. That's what they want. They would show up in greater numbers because I think the dumbest amongst us think that communism could work. Well, at the very least, it would work long enough to take the money and wealth from others around them. Now, whether or not they can see past 1 month of communism or not doesn't matter. The amount of destruction they could do is incredible. Thank you, Mr. Human, for sharing your opinion there. I agree with you. They would show up and be in much greater numbers at the onset of violence. Once again, at the onset of violence, I think it will end up being these leftist lunatics. How quick would it be for you to respond to a series of actions of violence out there? If you knew the violence was 5 miles down the road, would you go to the source of the violence, or would you wait for it to succeed and come closer? Instead of being 5 miles down the road, what if the violence was 1 mile down the road? You knew that these wacko leftists were coming your way and they're 1 mile away. Would you go down there and help to stop them 1 mile away? Or would you stay at your place? If they were a 1/4 mile away from your house and you could hear the fighting now, you can hear the gunshots, are you going to stay in your house, or are you going to go 1/4 of a mile away and fight back? Protect yourself and others. If the violence is at the end of the street, 100 yards away, are you going to go to the end of the street and help your neighbors protect your street? What are you going to do if they're in your front yard? Tough questions. I ask myself that question frequently. If I know it's coming, what responsibility do I have to myself to keep them as far away from my bunker as possible? What responsibility do I have to my neighbors who share the same street as me? And what responsibility do I have to my community, knowing that they're coming for all of us if they want to be complete wackos? I think it's a fair question to ask. Do I say, well, it's 5 miles down the road and that's their problem? Or do I say I need to help them and then network with them, communicate with them and say, well, I'm from area X. So understand and remember, if area X is ever under attack, I expect assistance from everyone else. Likewise, I'm going to ask you, if you are capable of and understand large group defense tactics, basic defense tactics, urban defense tactics, will you help others? Will you help these people organize 5 miles away, 1 mile away, at the end of the street? Where do you step up and where do you step in? I think they're fair questions to ask. Let me go a little bit further with this scenario. And I know it's rather militant for some of the softballs out there, but now we're dealing with pro-Palestinian, Hamas, and other terrorist organizations who are here in this country, who are organizing themselves, who are here in sleeper cells, who have come across the border illegally as well as come across the border with Joe Biden's permission. And they're training children to be suicide bombers and other warriors of jihad. Not to mention Antifa, not to mention BLM, not to mention all of these radicalized college punks. Do we have a threat here? Yes. Have we been invaded? Yes. We were invaded a long time ago, and the invasion continues. We are surrounded by these people. Now, let me ask you the question again. 5 miles away, You know, the fighting has started with these radical leftists who are trying to go into the neighborhoods and, well, commit all manner of crime. And you hear there is someone with military experience up there, right? A captain, a major, an 0100 officer, right? Infantry officer. And you hear there are veterans up there. Are you more inclined now to go help, to back them up, to join them? If you know it's a bunch of veterans, especially those with combat experience. I think it's a fair question. If you live in an area that has a lot of sportsmen with high-powered rifles and very nice optics, and they know how to shoot, would you be more inclined to go up there and help them? Would you be more inclined to go 5 miles to help out a group of people who are confronted with these radical wackos? If you are aware that they have food and clothing and housing and everything that's needed to keep people that are helping fed and protected from the elements while they defend others, right? They're defending, people go up there, they're defending them. And so the people in the neighborhood are willing to take care of them, right? Properly for fighting against the bad guys. Would you go up there? Now I'm going to tell you this. If you hear there's fighting 5 miles up the road, that there's bad guys coming from one direction and they're hurting people and they've met resistance at 5 miles, I guarantee you right now there's going to be combat veterans there. There are going to be other veterans there. There are going to be sportsmen there, and there will be people willing to feed, clothe, and take care of everyone. Whether you know it or not, there's going to be those people there. Believe it or not, because we are everywhere. We are everywhere. And I'll tell you what, if I was at the front and these people were coming, these bad guys, and we needed to stop them, I would appreciate having every red-blooded American there with me, whether or not they were in the service or not, to offer whatever support and help and assistance they could. This is the war that's coming. Partisan conflict. This is what the government wants. They want to turn one group of Americans against a group of anti-American Americans. That's what they're doing. Divide and conquer. See, the government doesn't have the military. The government doesn't have the law enforcement that it needs to take over this country. There are not enough of them to do it. And enough in the military are patriotic where they would not obey those orders and they would arrest their commanding officers for giving such orders. They would arrest their battalion officers. They would arrest their regimental officers. They would arrest their company, their platoon leaders. They would arrest them for giving orders like that. So how do they get after Americans? How do they kill us? How do they punish us? How do they cause pain, discomfort, chaos? They get us to fight each other, what I have been calling partisan conflict. And now we have the greatest partisan conflict in front of us. We have Democrat versus Republican. We have communist, socialist Democrats versus patriotic, libertarian, patriots, veterans, sportsmen, etc. We have radical religious people on the other side, Islam and the Satanists who think that killing babies is great. You have these college students. And then you have good, honest, hardworking, moral, decent, tax-paying Americans on the other side. We outnumber them, folks. But understand this, I think these are numbers and ideas and concepts and thoughts that I would like you to exercise. Think about it. I'm not telling you to take action. I'm not glamorizing or glorifying any of this. It'll be a fucking horror show. It'll be a horror show, folks. When you hear the air filled with screams, you will understand what I'm talking about. All right, Mr. Uman, let's do some more questions. We'll get off of my crazy ass topic. Charles Gentry says, take out the grid and most America will destroy itself for them. Yes, sir. He says, just walk in and mop up after about 6 to 12 months. That's an interesting statement. I don't know who's going to walk in and mop up after 6 to 12 months. Because I have a funny feeling, Mr. Gentry, that patriotic Americans will be done in less than a month. And I don't know who's going to step in and take them out, unless they wanted to really come in and fight a war or allow or instigate or promote Russia or China to invade America. I think we'd have one hell of a mess. I don't think, and understand, look at the trouble, Mr. Gentry, that the United States government, the European Union, and NATO got in trouble over in Ukraine. They thought they were going to piss off Russia, and then Russia was going to invade. They were going to make Russia look bad, and everyone was going to go kick Russia's ass, and that we were going to take over Russia, that they were going to bomb Moscow and cause a revolution in Moscow and overthrow Putin. They had all kinds of ideas and visions of victory over there. And what have they gotten? Well, Ukraine is getting its modern day version of Waterloo. That's what's going on. They did not win. They're not getting what they want. I think they are very poor planners and predictors. I think that they've done a lot of work and they're going to cause a lot of pain and suffering, but I don't think that we're just going to give up. I don't know who's going to walk in and mop up the United Nations peacekeeping forces. I think they might try it. That's what I think. But I don't think that the military, the Army and Marine Corps would be willing to do that in 6 to 12 months. I think it would have to be an international force, peacekeepers that would come in and try and help us out here in America. But you are right about taking us off the grid, taking away the power. I think that would cause a shit pile of trouble. All right. And I think they know it. Some of the earliest prepper Armageddon style movies that came out 10 years ago and more were about the grid going down, our reliance upon electricity to maintain not only our standard of living, but to maintain life at all. Let us continue. Mr. Uman, thank you very much for doing all you do, man. Mikey G checks in. He says, Nazis were executed for just doing my job, right? Just doing their duty, you bet. Anyone who commits treason, right, is going to find themselves at with a big step and a short rope and a quick stop. We're going to have a lot of trouble, folks. And there's going to be good Americans punished the same way, folks. When the enemy gets a hold of us, don't think that they're going to treat us kindly. This is why I refuse to be arrested. The January 6 prisoners who are still locked up are serving to me a very powerful message that you don't allow yourself to be arrested. I'm not telling you to violate the law, folks. I'm not telling you to resist arrest. I'm telling you that for me, that's how I see it. I don't see allowing yourself to be arrested is a good thing anymore. Because in order for that to be a good thing, you have to be assured of due process, the right to legal representation, right? Discovery of all the prosecutor's information, a fair and impartial trial by jury of your peers, a quick and speedy trial. Does that sound any fucking thing like January 6 protesters, what they got? They've been kept in prisons. They've been tortured. By prisons, I mean the most foul prisons, unsanitary conditions, lack of medicine, lack of good food. This is what they're doing right now. Basically, the worst parts of the Declaration of Independence are being done right now, short of burning farms and raping women. This is where we're at. Read the part about England using the Native Americans to attack the American colonists and substitute, if you will, Antifa and pro-Palestinian terrorists. Substitute BLM and tell me if it doesn't sound exactly right. All right, yes, Mikey G, Nazis were executed. Traitors need to be executed for violating our rights, for violating the Constitution. Anytime I think the government violates the Constitution, they know what they're doing. I think they should be held accountable, 100%. All right, Mr. Uman, what do we have next? We have H12, Heidi, who says, sometimes it's not so much that they came to the wrong conclusions, it's that they are incapable of admitting they were wrong. And they dig in their heels and they go to violence. Saving face is very important to small minds. That's a very interesting statement. Yeah, the people in government make bad decisions and then they don't accept responsibility for what they did. And instead they double down. They triple down. They're willing to go scorched earth and fuck everything up. Remember when we used to discuss scorched earth policies in the Biden and Obama administration and what we thought Hillary would do and what the Democrats are doing? Would you say that we're going basically scorched earth? Well, they're laying the groundwork, that's for sure. They're willing to burn it all down if they don't get their way. 2024 is going to be one hell of an election season, folks. It's going to be one hell of a thing to watch. I sure hope you are prepared. All right. Thank you very much, Heidi. Yes, small minds, small goals. Orlando, thank you, brother, for communicating with me today. It was a busy-ass day, but I was able to spend a little bit of time answering you. He says, the answer, I believe, to your question of why is because they know not all of us are brain dead and we pose a threat to them. That's correct. We're not all brain dead. We are intelligent enough to see what's going on. We do know who the bad guys are. We do know what they're up to. We understand their plans. There are no accidents. Right? We know. They know, we know. The powerful in Washington would love for us to just go away. If Hillary's re-education camp dream could become a reality, every bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. would choose that outcome, to have us locked up and either brainwashed or killed so that we could no longer pose a threat to them. Now, this Hunger Games thing, this post-apocalyptic, crazy world, once again popularized the genre, but with children heroes, where a top-down federal government full of a bunch of perverted freaks were punishing everybody around the world. That's what they have in mind. You will own nothing and you'll be happy, they say. It's worldwide. It's not just a country. It's worldwide. It's not just the United States. It's not just Europe. This is a worldwide effort to punish us all because we pose a threat. They want to take everything they can, because they have insatiable appetites, and they're a bunch of sadistic pigs. They like to see us suffer. And I'll tell you what else they like, and it does not apply to you and me. They like to see people fooled. They like to trick people. They like to con people. It gives them a sense of satisfaction and superiority by lying to us and having us believe it. They tell a lie and watch other people take action. Do you think for a second that the fascists, Soros, Zuckerberg, and the whole lot of them don't get a kick out of how these anti-fascist, Antifa, do their bidding for them, and they are working Antifa for a bunch of fascists? Literally. They're not. The people in charge with money don't want to give it up to some government, some institution. They want to keep their money and their power. That is not communism. That is fascism. But of course, it is a totalitarian system that they want to keep in line. Social fascism, it's socialism, and it's totalitarian, it's authoritarian. But they want to push communism down on us so that we have to fight amongst each other over it. One hell of a funny, crazy world, is it not? Sheesh. All right, Mr. Uman, where are we at? Oh shit, we're at an hour. That's where we're at. We'll do name redacted, then sign off for the night. He says, I don't want any of these lib doctors around me, let alone big government mystery pills. I hear you, man. I was like, okay, I can see how the government would say, hey, here's some potassium iodide pills just in case there's a nuclear bomb. But what's in them? We're supposed to trust pharmaceutical companies, right? At the same time, can we trust pharmaceutical companies? I think not. Jeez. Yeah. Those days of trust are over. They're over. Folks, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Godspeed. Semper Fi. Share the internet address with others. They need to wake the hell up. Godspeed.